Hello students, I welcome you to the topic of industrial effluents and their impact on food quality, pesticide residues in foods. Both are two different topics. So, this topic will give insights into the sources of industrial effluents, the effects of industrial effluents on health and food quality, and also the origin and types of pesticide residues in foods. So, what are industrial effluents? Industrial effluent is any wastewater generated by the industrial activity. So, after the industrialization, various industries like steel industry, leather industry and also many industries have sprouted up. So, each of these industry would be using water as the major ingredient. It could be for the manufacturing purpose, for cooling purpose or for any other means. Processed water, the raw water is being used, and this would also generate the wastewater which is called as the effluent. So, with the rapid development of industries, huge amount of fresh water is being used as processed water and huge amounts of wastewater is being generated as a effluent water. The industrial effluent generated is considered as essential byproduct of modern industry. We have to consider one point: the industrial effluent, though being generated, is not only harmful, it is also considered as an essential byproduct, because it has got many nutrients which can serve the irrigation purpose or the agricultural purpose. So, nitrates, phosphates and then calcium salts, which are the intermediate products of the industry, are considered as the essential byproduct. So, in urban areas, the careless disposal of industrial effluents and also other waste contribute to the poor quality of water. So, in the developing countries, the effluents which are generated from the industries are directly routed only to the water bodies, nearby water bodies. So, most of the water bodies in the developing world are the end points of effluents which are discharged from the industries. What are the types of industrial effluents which are generated by the industry? Let us look in. So, industrial wastewater consists of both organic and inorganic substances. So, organic substances are those which have carbon as the skeleton, and also inorganic substances are the compounds which can dissociate into ions. So, organic waste include pesticide residues, cleaning solutions, solvents and also dissolved residues from fruits, vegetables and also from lignin, which is a source of pulp and paper industry, and also oil which is generated during the refining process of petroleum. All these are considered as the organic waste. And the effluents which contain inorganic waste include the brine salts. Brine is a salt solution. So, brine salts and also the metals which are generated as the process of refining. Now, what are the sources of the industrial effluents? The basic thing is agriculture. When I say agriculture, the runoff from crops contain pesticides, also sediments and fertilizers, which could be from animal or plant origin, and also they contain bacteria, organic matter and also salts, likewise nitrates, phosphates, which are used for the to enhance the crop productivity. So, all these are taken away from the agriculture industry as the runoff. So, this contributes as one of the source of the industrial effluents. The next industry is fruit and vegetable processing industry. We have many fruit juices coming up in the market and also processed vegetables which are coming up. The wastewater is a byproduct of this industry, has high concentrations of dissolved organic matter which may be alkaline because of use of lye in the industry. So, this also contributes as one of the sources of the industrial effluents. Next is a petroleum refining, this is one of the organic which is present in the industrial effluents. Oil is mixed with water during the refining process, and this will enable to remove salts and other impurities. So, oil is considered as one of the sources again for the industrial effluents, and also pulp and paper. So, in the paper industry, lots of sulphite liquor waste called sulphite liquor containing various wood byproducts is being generated. So, this contains lots of dioxins. So, these dioxins are the resultant of the paper or pulp industry, which is serving as the source of industrial effluent. Knowing what all the industrial effluents which are contributed by the industries, every industry is unique. So, the effluents which are released by each of the industry are different, and the contaminants which are present in the industrial effluents are of various strengths and also various volumes. So, it is impossible for any authorities to fix standard references as to how much the industrial effluent should contain. Naturally, when these are rooted into the water sources, these will have lethal effects, or at times they may also have some positive effects. So, what are the effects of industrial effluents? Let us look in. The waste disposal practices which pose a threat to drinking water supplies include, because naturally they are rooted up only either into lakes, ponds or rivers. So, that will contaminate the water sources. These contaminants are retained in the surface impoundments or evaporation ponds. Now, when they are present, slowly they percolate into the soil. So, this also will pose a threat to the soil. Once they are absorbed into the soil, they in turn are also used up by the plants which are growing in the nearby catchment area. So, finally, they are also evident in the food compounds which are being eaten away by the humankind or the mankind. So, the wastewater from the industries arise so greatly both in flow as well as pollution strength. So, this may contribute or deteriorate drinking water bodies, but also are posing a threat to the soil as well as the crops. In turn, this is also contaminating the environment. So, all the four segments, that is water, soil, environment as well as foods or the food crops, are at risk because of these industrial effluents, and they are also posing a threat to the human, animal and aquatic lives. That is, they are disturbing the balance in the ecosystem. So, knowing this, what kind of effects does these industrial effluents will have on food quality? So, let us know what is food quality is an important manufacturing requirement. Who are eating the contaminated food are susceptible to illness. So, it is the most vital requirement of any food industry to maintain the quality of the food. So, these industrial wastes are usually discharged onto land or into the sources of water. So, by the industrialization or the acceleration of with the pace of development of the country, there have been very adverse effects, and these adverse effects are having an impact on agriculture, and this would cause environmental degradation. So, this has been, the industrial effluence has been linked up to the breakage in the food chain. So, on the other hand, huge amount of waste is also generated from industries like distillery industry and also paper industry. As we all know, we do not have plenty resources, though we have plenty of resources of water. The water which is diverted for irrigation, that can be fresh water sources which can be utilized for irrigation of land, are scarce. So, to overcome this, we are diverting the unconventional sources of water, or in urban areas unconventional sources of water is being used for irrigating agricultural land. So, this may introduce some plant nutrients. Now, when unconventional sources I talk about, this includes, it can be the industrial effluent or the sewage. So, both these contain effluents which may serve as a source of few compounds or the nutrients, likewise nitrogen compounds, phosphates, potassium and the other important compounds which may serve beneficial for the plant growth. So, these often containing high amounts of these plant nutrients may contribute well to the plant growth, but on the other hand, they also have high amounts of organic acids as well inorganic materials which may pose toxic effects in the plant growth. So, this may accumulate in the soil in excessive amounts if used for long term, and subsequently these will have physical problems on the human beings by entering into the food chains. So, industrial water could be used safely and effectively by taking necessary precautions in an organized way. After treating it will increase the soil productivity. So, that is wherein as a thumb rule, treated waste for agricultural purpose, it serves as a purpose for agriculture if it is well treated, as by the definition WHO, that is World Health Organization, asked to use safe and wholesome water which is free from pathogens, chemical substances, and which has pleasant taste, odor and color, and which is capable to be used for domestic purposes. So, this water, in case if it is contaminated with the effluents, does not serve the above criteria, hence unplanned discharges should be avoided. The industry should be regulated to treat the effluents, and then further the treated effluent water has to be diverted to the drinking water sources or the other water bodies. So, definitely the industrial effluents, though has a minimal positive effect, it has also got the maximum defective effect or the negative effects, as the industrial effluents contain both organic and then inorganic compounds that will have the influence or the effect on the development and growth of the crop plants. So, this is how both are interrelated. When the concentration of the pollutants in the effluents are low, if the agriculture reuse of treated effluents is made, so as we discussed, it will have a positive effect which is considered as a promoting sustainable agriculture. That is, treated effluents will have beneficial effect and they can be called as promoters of sustainable agriculture and also a way of conservation of scarce water resource. So, we have to remember that industrial wastewater can cause accumulation of heavy metals which has the effects on the plant growth and seed germination as the negative effect. At the same time, if adequate treatment facilities are subjected to, the same water can have proper or positive effects which serves the sustainable agriculture. The food qualities also increase satisfactory consumption by the growers. There were case studies which have been conducted by many researchers, and it is evident that contaminated soil exerted significant negative effects with the untreated water. A comparison has been made between rice and also the other grass plants. As rice also belong to the grass family, rice and other grass plants have grown in the industrial effluent water which has shown the negative effects, and the pronounced effects are seen in rice. Likewise, the contents of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium in rice plants grown in the contaminated soil are decreased. These are the important nutrients which will enable the plant to grow. But it is evident that these three nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, were low, whereas the increased contents of sulfur and sodium were found. So, this itself shows that what are the ill effects on the food quality, how the industrial effluents will determine the food quality. So, we have to consider one of the 5 principles of World Health Organization, that is to use safe water and then raw materials. To achieve this goal and to minimize the risks and to avoid unnecessary harm, we have to ensure proper control measures are put in place, and also the regulatory authorities would be in place to check in the sustainable agriculture and also to help the mankind. Pesticide residues in food. Before we understand pesticide residues in foods, let us know what are pesticides. Pesticides are any chemicals used in the agriculture to protect crops against the infectious diseases caused by either insects, fungi, weeds or other pests. According to Federal Environmental Pesticide Act, pesticide has been described as any substance or mixture of substances introduced for preventing, destroying, repelling or mitigating any pest, and this is how the pesticides are defined. So, they have an inhibitory effect or the destroying effect or the repelling effect onto the pests. World Health Organization has classified pesticides based on their acute toxicity. It has classified the pesticides into 3 classes as class 1, class 2, class 3. In class 1 again there are 2 subdivisions. Class 1A includes extremely hazardous pesticides. and this particular section of pesticides are demarcated in red. Next, in class 1B, highly hazardous pesticides, and the symbol of yellow triangle is being used onto the container. Class 2 section of pesticides include moderately hazardous pesticides, which are marked by a blue triangle, and class 3 is known to be slightly hazardous. All the pesticides which are slightly hazardous to the humankind, and a blue triangle has been used to demarcate them. Other pesticides which are not slightly hazardous are considered to be not likely to be hazardous. So, all these three, here it has to be noted that 2/3 of the pesticides consumed by farmers or the growers fall under WHO class 1 and 2. As we know, the basic industry here in India is agriculture. 70% of the human population is dependent on the agriculture. So, when it is an agriculture based country, the use of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides have been introduced herein from mid 60s. Earlier to that, it was a conventional farming wherein only biopesticides or organic pesticides were in use. After the dawn of industrialization, even there were demarcated changes in the agriculture industry, and then farmers started using pesticides or herbicides to enhance the growth of the industry. So, the main intention of introduction of pesticides is to control or prevent the diseases to the food crops caused either by the insects or the pests. Contamination of the environment. It has got many long term effects on the society. Pesticides are chemicals which are used to eliminate the pests, but their indiscriminate use will in a way also contaminate environment, and also they are present in the food crops for long term, that is even after the pest is being killed, the pesticides have got their impact onto the foods. Let us look in what are the food crops which have been benefited by the use of pesticides. There has been better yield and quality in the yield of cereals, pulses, all the fruits and vegetables, the size has been increased, and the pest control was achievable. Many of the vegetables, if you look in, they are susceptible to pests, but by the use of these pesticides, farmer was able to achieve the goal of keeping away the pests and have a high yield. The pesticides which are sprayed are more harmful and has got more effect than those which are mixed with the soil. So, two types of application is feasible, that is, one is spraying method and the other is mixing the powder into the soil. But the spraying method has got adverse effects comparatively to the mixing of the powder, that is in the form of a powder, the pesticide being mixed up with the soil. Once it happens to be watered, or certainly if it happens to rain, this particular pesticides leach into the water, nearby water, and they also find a way into the human body through the food chain. If they are evident in the aquatic lives, likewise fish, crabs or shellfish, and if they are improperly being cooked and then eaten by the human beings, this is how the food chain is affected, and then they are evident in the human body. The pesticides are basically used by the farmers at the fruiting stage, because this is a very important or vital stage where it can attract the pests, but overlooking these or non-adoption of safe waiting period leads to the accumulation of pesticides in the vegetables which are being sold or which are being consumed. So, this will have adverse health effects which includes cancer, effects on the reproductive system, immune system, and also there would be cognitive dysfunctions in the children, and they may also cause or pose a threat to the ecosystems. So, let us see how many types of pesticide residues are present. Besides the physico-chemical properties, pesticides have been categorized into three. They are organochlorine compounds, currently which are being banned because of their increased persistence in the environment. That is, they have the ability to bioaccumulate, and then they have long lasting effects which may cause the toxic effects. The second category would be organophosphorus compounds and carbamate compounds. These are the principal group of compounds which are used or which are sprayed to protect the plants, enhance the vegetable cultivation. The third group includes pyrethrins or pyrethrinoids. So, these play a major role in combating pests. That is why the international organizations, likewise World Health Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization have established MRLs for pesticides. MRL is maximum residue limit, which can be evident per kg of the substance. By restricting the farmers, the pesticides be used in any form would not have lethal effects onto the humankind. Pesticide residues are again classified as non-systemic residues and also systemic residues. Non-systemic residues are those which remain on the surface of foods. Once they are present on the surface of the foods, they can be removed when food is washed. Foods are subjected to various processing methods, likewise washing, peeling, husking or dehusking. These methods will remove the surface pesticides, which are considered as non-systemic residues. And also there are many processes which include milling, cooking, canning or refining. All these processes would reduce the amount of pesticides which are present onto the surface of the foods. And the second category of the pesticides include systemic residues. These systemic residues are toxic. They can percolate inside the edible portions and can reach the humans either through food or through water. So, pesticide residues builds up in the body of animals through the food chain. So, the examples of non-systemic residues which can build up in the body of animals include DDT, that is dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane, and also there is another pesticide known as BHC, that is benzene hexachloride. Both these have got a toxic effect, that is wherein these were banned in India. So, if we look at the statistics, approximately 1400 pesticides are being used worldwide, but only 203 pesticides have been registered for use for agriculture in India. This is as per the statistics of December 2006. 203 pesticides are being used against various pests and diseases, and the most commonly used pesticides include herbicides, which are used to destroy the weed plants, insecticides, which has the capacity to kill insects and other arthropods, rodenticides, which can control mice and other rodents, fungicides, which can kill fungi, and the pesticides, though being used in various under these categories. If we look at the statistics, the global trends show that insecticide use is around 75% in the country, but compared to the worldwide statistics, it is only 32%. So, we are using above half the percent of world usage of insecticides in our country. Herbicide use is only 12% in our country, but whereas worldwide it is 47%, because weeding or removal of weed plants is a important economic or a labor which can aid in the employment in the agricultural industry, that is wherein the use of these particular sector of pesticides is minimal in India. So, biopesticides, as we all know, which does not pose any threat, because so far whatever we have discussed are all synthetic compounds. The use of biopesticides in India is only 1%, but whereas if we look at the world statistics, it is 12%. So, from 1998 to 2005, if we look towards the trend, the decline in the use of class 1A, which are extremely hazardous pesticides, the decline is only 2%, that is from 11% to 9%. So, the pesticides have got an indiscriminate effect on economic, ecological and health front, but if can be used in a proper way, can also meet the demands of the growing agricultural industry.